All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shaylin Stimson. I'm the event manager here at Tech Manitoba. I hope you enjoyed that little preview of what's coming for Manitoba Tech Week 2024. And thank you so much for joining us today for the Tech Mashup. I hope you're ready to elevate your email marketing game. Before we get started, in spirit of reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge that Tech Manitoba is located in Winnipeg on the ancestral land of Treaty 1 territory. This is the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Danahay people, and on the homeland of the Red River Métis Nation. Tech Manitoba continually seeks to cultivate better relationships with Indigenous peoples and communities, and we seek to make Manitoba's tech sector the most diverse, equitable, and inclusive in Canada. So real quick, I wanted to give a heads up on some of our upcoming events. So Manitoba Tech Week, just like the video you saw, that one kicks off in under 2 weeks. So February 26th to March 3rd, there's going to be events across the city. Check out the link that Marie just threw in the chat there. There's an interactive events calendar. You can filter and sort and scroll between the two pages. There's a bunch of different events that are coming up for that. You can register through our website for any of the ones that you're interested in. And please do tell your friends, family, colleagues, like the video said, tech is for everyone. It's not just limited to people who work in tech. So lots of exciting things to check out that week. And then moving into March, we have our next tech mashup. That one is optimizing everything with AI. So same place, same time on Remo here over lunch hour. We have Dr. Jason Feege, CEO of NCube Data Science, and he'll be discussing how you can optimize everything with AI. So artificial intelligence provides powerful methods to solve optimization problems that would be extremely difficult or unsolvable using non-AI techniques. So join us to learn more for that one. And another really fun event on Wednesday, March 13th, is going to be Plugged In. If you've been before, that's an in-person networking event. It's free. It's at across the board. It's after work, so 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it's a networking and community building event for early tech professionals to come together and learn more about local resources available. So you'll get introduced to Tech Manitoba's community, local meetup groups, and like-minded peers. And then also coming back is our Career Connections events. So those are virtual hiring and networking events for tech talent. These ones are also free, also on Remo. So there's two. There's one April 4th for mid to senior level talent, and then one on May 9th for upcoming and recent tech grads. So links to all those events can be found in the chat just to my side. And now to the main event. So today we're joined by Cody Pierson. He's the owner of Hubcap Solutions. So Cody Pierson has been working at HubSpot since 2018. He started Hubcap Solutions in 2020. Today, it's a two-person team of SMB-focused sales and marketing operations specialists, laser-focused on working in HubSpot. His team provides bespoke HubSpot support to sales and marketing teams that deliver real impact, not another strategic marketing report. So please help me welcome Cody. And feel free to add an emoji just down on the side. You can clap, you can give a thumbs up. Wonderful. Welcome, Cody.
Hello, Shaylin. Thanks for queuing me up on that one. Much appreciated.
Perfect.
Right on. Okay. Cool. So everybody, I am going to get my screen share going, and then I will give you the rundown. Second here for the cancel share Chrome tab. Perfect. Throw that into slideshow mode, and then slip right back on. So first off, thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to come and learn a little bit more about email marketing with me, Cody Pierson. So today's, what we're going to cover is basically three big chunks. You'll get a bigger intro on me in just a second. We're going to talk a little bit about email marketing fundamentals. We're going to talk about the differences between an email audience and an email subscription. And what I'm sure is going to be everybody's favorite part, we're going to be talking about email compliance and correctly collecting permissions. So CASL, CAN-SPAM, GDPR, and all those fantastic acronyms that everybody loves. And then we are going to wrap it up, and there will be time for some Q&A, because I definitely know that you guys probably have questions about how all of this will apply to your own instances, your own accounts, and your own processes. So now, who is Cody Pierson, and why is he the one talking to you about all of this stuff? So Shailene gave you the back of the envelope rundown, but really the best way to think of me is I am a HubSpot consultant. Now, some of you folks might have heard about HubSpot. Some of you folks might even be using HubSpot. But really, for our purposes today, what HubSpot is it's a CRM and email marketing platform. So it does a lot more than that, but one of the biggest things that it does do for organizations is help them send out email marketing, just like MailChimp or Constant Contact, ActiveCampaign, Klaviyo, any of the other platforms that are out there. So what we're gonna look about, I'm gonna be coming at this from a bit of a HubSpot slant for some of the technical stuff, but ultimately, all of the fundamentals that we're going to cover today are going to be kind of platform agnostic. They're going to be applicable no matter what platform you want to run in. So as part of my HubSpot specialty, like I say, me and my partner, Lisa, we run Hubcap Solutions. We help people buy, set up, and support HubSpot. So that's a little bit about how I spend my 9 to 5 when I'm not talking to lovely folks like yourselves. So, nope, that's not the slideshow. That's the slideshow. So email marketing fundamentals. We're going to start at the base level. And what I want to get out of the way first is that email marketing is a full-time job for people. Like, there are dedicated 100% email marketers. So we're not going to cover every corner of the email marketing universe today. We're going to start off with why email is a channel as important and kind of worth putting some effort into. Then we're going to talk a little bit about what I think is the most most critical element, which is those audiences and those subscriptions. And then, like I say, we're going to end off with the compliance. But to get us started with kind of just giving ourselves some food for thought for any of us that are part-time marketers or anybody that wears that email marketing hat on a day-to-day basis, let's talk about why email marketing matters. And now, there's some stats up on the board. ROI was 28.5% versus 7% for direct mail. 72% prefer to receive email promotional content through email. Automated messages have 70.5% higher open rates. That's all great. That is not why you should do email marketing. Those are some benefits and some strengths and some numbers, to convince folks why email matters as a channel. Why you should do email marketing, in my mind, comes down to 3 core benefits. The first one is that you own the channel. And what I mean by this is the fact that a lot of the stuff that we do, whether it's paid media on Google Ads or LinkedIn or Facebook, or organic social posting, or heck, even, radio advertising, or, traditional out of home, or most of the marketing channels that we use, other than maybe our blogs, we're basically just paying or putting our content in somebody else's hands. We can request, hey, we want it at this time, or hey, we'd like to appear on this post, or hey, don't show it on this certain, in these certain circumstances. But you can't know. Whereas with email, it's your audience, it's your platform, it's your content. It goes out when you say it does. It goes out with whatever content you want. So you control email as a channel, which is one of the very few channels that we do own. And that's one real advantage to email marketing. Second, it is, I'm not going to say universal, but it is ubiquitous. So everybody's got an email address, even, I sometimes have questions, but it's like, well, what about the Gen Alphas and the whatnot? Ultimately, you still need an email address to sign up for, heck, income taxes, medical records. Like, people have email. You can't be guaranteed that people are going to be on TikTok, on Facebook, checking their LinkedIn regularly, using Google rather than Bing, blah, 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 blah. But everybody's got an email address. So if you can get that email address, or by doing it on by investing in email as a channel, your potential reach is virtually everybody with a computer. Does it take some effort to get that email address? Absolutely, and we'll talk about that a little later. But you don't have to wonder whether, hey, is the person I want to talk to using email? And then also, it fills multiple roles. So investing in email as a channel, like, and doing your automation and getting your platform set up right, it doesn't just help you with your newsletters or, those kind of promotional emails that you want to send out intermittently. Or email can definitely be used, to promote and follow up with and do actual events like event marketing. So hey, I want to send the agenda out to people who are going to be attending my event, or I want to follow up with those people that I talked to at a trade show. I want to send out reminders to folks that they've ordered something from me. Email fills a lot of operational roles, and the work that you do both on the technical side of things and on the kind of the infrastructure side of things to get your channel good for marketing will pay dividends in other ways that you want to use email. So that combination of A, you own the email channel, B, it hypothetically reaches everybody, and C, you can use it in ways beyond just kind of, traditional email marketing, are some of the really strong benefits to email as a platform and why it justifies, in my mind, putting the effort into it. So what does it actually require? Now, again, a lot of stuff, but to drill it down or to distill it down to kind of the three essentials, email needs three things: a platform, an audience, and content. We're going to talk about the platform now. We're going to talk about audience and content later on in the presentation. So what do I mean by a platform? Like I said, HubSpot, MailChimp, Constant Contact, Sendinblue, one of the 1,000 other email marketing platforms that exist. They all fundamentally do the same thing: allow you to put content in a builder, pair that contact up with a list of people, and then push that content out the door into their inboxes. Different platforms have different strengths. Klaviyo is an e-commerce focused platform. HubSpot, very much not an e-commerce focused platform. So if you do a lot of actual widget selling on the internet, Klaviyo is going to be a better platform than HubSpot for you. So the actual process of kind of researching and figuring out which platform is the best for you, that's something that kind of each organization has to do on its own. But the first thing you need is a platform, and as I have highlighted in orange, it should not be Outlook or Gmail. Now, a lot of people start their email marketing journey by saying, hey, I'm just going to BCC, or CC the 25 people that I want to send some sort of promotional email message to. I'm going to build it in my Gmail. I'm going to send it from my email address, or I'm going to send it from marketing@abccompany.com. And that's just going to go out through my, my regular mail platform. You don't want to do that for two real reasons. One, you're putting your sender reputation at risk. There is negative connotation or negative impacts to getting reported for spam, having a really low open rate, having people, mark it as unsubscribe. That's what I was trying to say the first time. Unsubscribe, mark as spam, low open rates. Those will reflect poorly on your email domain. So the email address that you're sending things from. So you're less likely to have future emails delivered if you get those kind of negative signals. So you don't want to put your main domains at risk. Using an email marketing platform doesn't fully eliminate, but it definitely mitigates some of the risk of putting your own kind of actual email address, out there in an email marketing context. The other big element is performance. Like, yeah, you could request re-receipts from everybody or from all 50 people that you sent a newsletter to via Outlook, but that's not really a scalable or easy way to parse who opened it, what was my open rate, to get some of those kind of core statistics that you really want to see when, how your email is performing. So again, you need a platform. It shouldn't be Outlook or Gmail. So if you're using Outlook or Gmail today, or just wondering, could I use that for my email marketing? Short answer is You probably shouldn't. You should just look at using a free like MailChimp account. Oh, sorry there, everybody. A free MailChimp account or something similar. So that's what you need to do email. Now, what about some high level email marketing advice? So again, because our lists in threes are fantastic, I've got 3 tidbits that kind of hit that basic email advice bucket. So the first is to send email with a purpose. And the italic text at the bottom there is just, would you want to receive the email you're about to send? Would you, as a recipient, see this as worth clicking on? We're email content is something that there is no silver bullet for. Like, we'll talk about this a little bit later as well, but the short answer is that you're not going to get a lot of advice today on, hey, what should I send in my first email? What makes a good email? Like, because all of that changes business to business, context to context. But giving it that honest smell test of, does this email add value? Would I want to receive this email? That's the first golden rule of email. If you don't genuinely think that somebody's going to care about what's in it, it's better not to send it. Sending fewer emails of higher quality is a lot better than just sending because you feel it's been a while since you've sent. And this is something we're going to talk about when it gets into audiences and subscriptions. But again, a newsletter, do you have enough content to actually support a monthly newsletter? Or would you be better off just not calling it a monthly newsletter and then only sending when you have something that adds value? And whether that value is, hey, here's a recording of a session that I just did to share some knowledge, or hey, I have published some legitimately great blogs. Hey, we've just had this new client case study that's fantastic. Hey, here's your, thanks for joining my mailing list. Here's some of the best content that we've published in the last year. There's a lot of ways that you can add value, but don't just send an email because you think it's been a while since the last time you sent an email. Or again, if you're putting out an offer that isn't really an offer, sometimes people are like, hey, I just want to remind people that they could request a free trial. It's like, well, is there actually any unique value to that that's not just on your website as per usual? Then keep that email in the can. Number 2, always provide clear next steps. This is a thing that this is something that people often fall into that relates to tidbit number 1, is if you don't want somebody to do something, why are you sending them an email? So always be clear on what that thing you want them to do is. Do you want them to go and watch this video? Do you want them to read this blog? Do you want them to register for this event? Sometimes people will send out emails that just kind of read like press releases. Hey, a thing happened. It's like, okay, great. But what action do you want me as the recipient to take? And that's why I use this, what does saving the date even mean? Because sometimes folks will say, hey, I've got this event coming up in 3 months. I don't have a registration page for it, but I want to let people know that it's coming. So they send an email. Okay, I, as the recipient, receive it. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Do you want me to block in my own calendar to hold this here? Like, there's no next step. It's pure abstract information. And then it becomes really tough to gauge the impact that email had, because if there's nothing to click on, then nobody's going to click on it. Then you're going to wonder, oh, why didn't anybody do anything with my email? Again, because you didn't provide clear next steps. So whether that's just a button or being very clear with some bold text at the bottom, that it's like, now that you've read this, now that you've invested the time of opening it, here's what we'd like you to do, and here's how you do it. That is critical to effective email marketing. And then consistency over quality. So this goes back to number 1. When you make a commitment to send, honor that commitment. So this is why I said it's like, if you don't have enough content to support a genuine monthly newsletter, just don't call it a monthly newsletter. But if you are going to set the expectation that this is going to be weekly, monthly, quarterly, if you are going to kind of make that tacit commitment of this is going to be a stream of content, honor that, because email marketing builds in effectiveness over time. As you have kind of credentialed to yourself to people that your emails have value, you will see better uptake on subsequent emails. So again, never send an email that doesn't have a purpose. But if you are going to commit to a schedule of email, honor that schedule. And that can be a difficult needle to thread. But that's why you have to be really honest with yourself when deciding what kind of emails do I want to send, which is we're going to talk about in the next step, which is audiences and subscriptions. Because there are two components to any email program that you want to undertake. One is the type of email, or the type of content that you're going to send, which are your subscriptions, and audiences, which are the people that are going to receive those emails. So we're going to unpack that using some real examples. So my example is cooking with Cody. So to get this image in your mind, think of this as one of those recipe blogs that we've all gone to. You know, you've come to learn how to make a mortadella sandwich. And then you're going to get the pop-up after you've been on the page for 30 seconds, which is, hey, sign up for more great sandwich recipes from Cody. So what we're gonna in that context, we're gonna look at how subscriptions and audiences kind of overlap and how they actually walk themselves out. So within the Cooking with Cody, picture that pop-up. You're putting in your email address because you want to get on my my recipe newsletter, and I'm going to ask you two questions. The first is, how would you describe your diet? You're a carnivore, an omnivore, a vegetarian, or a vegan. So this determines the audience, because that determines the type of content, or the particulars of what type of content I would like to send to those people. I'm not going to send recipes that suit the carnivore, you know, the meat lovers pizza. I'm not going to send that to my vegan audience. But if I'm doing something, you know, that's just like a creative way to use eggplant, I might decide, that's suitable for everybody. Yeah, it might not, the carnivores might not love it, but they're not going to hate it. But it applies to the rest of my audiences. So this kind of determines of what has the individual person told me about themselves, which might affect how I'm going to send them content. And then what would you like us to send you? A monthly newsletter, invites to community mashups or community meetups, and delicious recipes. This relates to a type of content independent of an audience. So again, if somebody has told me they want to receive delicious recipes and that they're a vegan, but they haven't told me that they want to receive community meetups, well then I'm going to send them vegan recipes, but I'm not going to send them the invite to my monthly vegan community meetup. So let's see how this actually would look in an individual subscriber context. Or sorry, here's how it works with some of the emails that I might want to send. So I'm going to have an email called 10 Rich New Vegan Recipes. Again, this applies to my audience of vegans, okay, because it's specifically vegan, and I'm specifically sending recipes, so that's my recipe subscription. Now, maybe I want to frame the same content slightly different. So 10 low cholesterol recipes where you won't miss the cheese. That, in terms of content, is more applicable to vegetarians and omnivores, because I'm not specifically calling out that it's vegan, but it ultimately is still just recipes. So again, this could be basically the same email, but with just two different subject lines. The 10 Rich New Vegan Recipes, that just goes to my vegan audience, but it's still in the recipe subscription. So the summary here is that even if an email fits only one subscription, it can still appeal to multiple audiences. So now we're going to actually look at that in terms of an individual. So let's say I've got my actual subscriber, Reg. So here's my little matrix of what Reg has told me. Reg has told me that he's a vegan, so he falls under my vegan audience. And he's told me that he wants to receive invites to events and he wants to receive recipes. So great. So this month, from those 2 emails above, Reg is going to receive my 10 rich new vegan recipes because he's subscribed to recipes, and he's a member of the vegan audience. So boop, boop, green check mark. Reg is going to get I get an email this month. Now we've got Meg, who's told me she's a vegetarian, but she hasn't subscribed to the recipes. So going back, the email I'm going to send this month is a recipe to vegetarians. So she's a vegetarian, but she's only told me she wants to receive event emails. So she's not going to get our recipes this month. And then the same thing. So the third example, Joe, again, he's told us he's an omnivore. He isn't interested in events, but he is interested in recipes. So he's going to get the email this month. So what can you do when setting up, or what should you do when setting up subscriptions? So you should clearly identify the nature of the emails that the subscription relates to. So sometimes subscriptions, and this can be helpful both for you and your subscribers. Like sometimes people will say resources. The subscription will just be resources. And then it's like, what constitutes a resource? So, or, they'll just call it marketing information. And then you're like, okay, well, I've got a marketing information subscription and I've got an event subscription. It's like, well, I'm going to send out my newsletter and that's going to have, our latest blog post. Plus, I also kind of want to mention my, our upcoming webinar in it. So it's like, now is that newsletter an event because it has an event in it, or is it marketing information because it has an event and something else? So going one of 2 ways, either being very specific about saying, hey, here, subscriber, is exactly what you're subscribing to. We're going to send you updates on our products, upcoming events, new blog content. So it can be as unambiguous as possible so that when somebody is, opting into something or modifying their subscriptions in the future, they've got a really clear sense of what I'm going to get and not get by unchecking these things. Or the other option is just go with one subscription. Like if you just don't send that much email, or you don't quite know how many types of email you need, just err on the side of having only a single subscription. Just saying, hey, marketing content from company ABC, so that people know that they're just either in or they're out. But even if you're going to go that route, telling people how often they should expect to receive emails is really critical, because people are generally less concerned of what type of email what subscription am I going to be in. They want to know, hey, how much email can I expect to get from your organization? Are you going to send me 3 a week? Are you going to send me, 1 a quarter? So this was to walk it out as a real kind of anecdote from my own experience. I used to subscribe to the David's Tea newsletter. They're a loose leaf tea company. Me and my wife bought a lot of tea from them back in the day. And I found that I was getting too much email from David's Tea. Every day I would get some new daily promo. So I went to manage my preferences, or actually I clicked the unsubscribe link and they took me to their preference management center. And I saw that they had like 4 different subscriptions. One was literally daily email promos. The other was like community profiles. The third one was their frequent steeper newsletter. And then I can't remember what the 4th one was. But looking at that, I was like, oh, okay, I just want to turn off daily email promos. Like, it's not that I thought that David's Tea's email was bad. I was just getting too much of it. So having them having it clearly broken out by being like, okay, here's how often we're going to send each of these types of email, and here's what they relate to, allowed me to customize how much email I was getting from them without just unsubscribing. Now, again, big company, multiple streams of email, but that's an example that's always stuck with me of why subscriptions, can be a way to allow people to customize their email experience without just opting in or opting out. Now, again, I'm going to give you we're going to walk through another set of examples. So, A, I'm a HubSpot consultant, and B, I'm also a huge nerd. So Warhammer 40,000, they're a sci-fi miniature game company. And I'm going to stop sharing just for a second while I open this up. Chrome tab. So this is Games Workshop, the folks that do Warhammer. This is their subscription management page. So they've asked me, hey, here's all the basic information they need to email me. They're putting me in an audience by asking me this question. They're saying, hey, which of our game settings are you interested in? I've told them I'm interested in Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and Warhammer the Horus Heresy. So they know right off the top that if they're going to send an email about Warhammer the Old World, don't send it to Cody. He doesn't care. He doesn't like that setting. They're also asking me which is my favorite setting. So I've said Age of Sigmar. So if they're going to send an email that covers content in multiple systems, they might just say, oh, well, Cody likes Age of Sigmar the best, so let's make sure we highlight the Age of Sigmar stuff in the subject line. So instead of saying, new updates to Warhammer 40,000 or new updates from Games Workshop, if it relates to Age of Sigmar, or if there's some Age of Sigmar content in there, they could say, new updates to Age of Sigmar. And they know that that's going to make me more likely to click because that's my favorite setting. Now, what do you enjoy about the Warhammer hobby? This is subscriptions. So this is Games Workshop saying, hey, we send email of these types. So, hey, you like to collect miniatures, you like building and painting, you like playing tabletop games. Now, they don't tell me how often to expect each of these types of emails, which is a place that they could improve. But knowing that, hey, that I want to receive information about building and painting miniatures, and that I like Warhammer 40K, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and Warhammer the Horus Heresy, they can then triangulate this to say, all right, the bi-weekly building and painting guides that we send out, great. Make sure we send the Age of Sigmar ones to Cody on whatever schedule that they have. So Games Workshop has just made it really clear what kind of content I'm going to get and how, allowed me to adjust within that section of, hey, here's the type of email that we want to send. What type does Cody want us to receive, and how do we make it relevant? So they've really pushed a lot of their homework off onto me by asking just really good questions. And I get, pretty good email out of Games Workshop to relate to that. And now I'm going to show one more off that's going to be much quicker, but this is HubSpot's email marketing platform or subscription management. So you can see that they have a ton of different subscriptions, and none of them, like some of it's because they have many languages, but I'm like, okay, marketing email developer changelog, developer blog, WhatsApp, SMS, investor relations, surveys and research, onboarding notifications, events, HubSpot company news notification, HubSpot media. I'm like, I don't know what the difference between those really is. Like, does customer communication fall under all of that? Would company news and notifications also be education and content? I don't know. I've never been able to figure out how adjusting any one of these subscriptions would actually impact the type of email that I'm going to get from HubSpot. So despite the fact that they run an email marketing platform and company, they don't do a great job of clearly communicating what you could expect to receive and how often. All right. So jumping back to presentation. Cool. So now we've talked a little bit about why email matters and some of the basic and some of the foundational tips for it. We've talked a little bit about how to differentiate between the types of email that you want to send and the types of people that you want to send that email to in the audiences and subscriptions breakdown. Now we're going to talk a little bit about compliance permission, because this basically determines, are you allowed to send people email? And I will preface this section by saying that this is a marketer's perspective on all of these. You'll want to talk to your legal team to assess their appetite for risk, because even within the broad strokes, there are certain finer points which may be more applicable or less applicable to you, depending on that appetite for risk, who your recipients are potentially going to be. So again, take this as the broad strokes, and then run it by the legal team if you have one. So the acronyms CAN-SPAM, CASL, and GDPR, they are the three major data privacy legislations that affect us here in Canada. So CAN-SPAM is the US's anti-spam law. And the joke is that the reason it's called CAN-SPAM is because under it, you can spam. So all America requires you to do is allow people to opt out of your email marketing messages. There's no requirement to get permission ahead of time. If you have an email, you can send them an email, a marketing email. All you have to do is give them the option to opt out. So if you've ever wondered, how did I get on this list? I don't remember signing up for this. It's probably an American company sending you an email using their CAN-SPAM coverage. Now, America is moving to a more compliance-driven model. Like California recently passed a much more stringent data privacy legislation, and laws that happen in California tend to work their way across the US. So I think that America is going to be getting more proactive about requiring permission to be gathered ahead of time. But right now, legally, they don't have to. CASL, instead of working on an opt-out model, works on an opt-in model. So CASL requires you to have some kind of permission to reach out to people. Now, permission can come in many forms, the most common of which is when submitting a form, the old checkbox to say, hey, I would like to receive emails from you. I would like to subscribe to your newsletter, XYZ. But the important thing is that for marketing purposes, some sort of consent. Now, you also have implied consent to email your customers. So anybody who has transacted with you in the last 2 years, kind of like a rolling, 2-year calendar, you can, do some manner of outreach to. So again, you don't have to worry about asking your customers for permission to send them product updates or something like that. That is part of the implied consent relationship. Now, there's a whole lot more to that, implied consent if you get a business card, implied consent under certain other circumstances. You can unpack that. There's plenty of articles out there that unpack those in more detail, but generally speaking, it's the opt-in option. Somebody has to opt in and give you permission. GDPR is the European Union's version of CASL, essentially. It is more stringent. One, it requires you to disclose whether you're using cookies on your website. So if you all wonder why around about May 25th, 2018, you started having to click accept cookies on every website that you go to, it's because of GDPR. It also applies to email. You have to provide some sort of opt-in consent. One of the big reasons that it caused more of a splash than CASL is that GDPR covers all EU citizens. So theoretically, if somebody from Liechtenstein signed up for your newsletter or ended up on your mailing list and they didn't want to be, they could go to the European, whatever regulatory body in Europe regulates email security, and try to impose a fine or take you to court or something like that. Again, the reality is that's not going to happen, but that's one of the reasons why the EU adopting has changed it for everybody kind of worldwide. Now, one more thing that I do want to touch on is the fact that this is all reporting driven. Basically, nothing happens unless somebody reports you to, in Canada, the CRTC. So it's not like there's somebody inspecting email lists or going through your HubSpot or your MailChimp account looking for violations. It's basically once you get reported enough, then some sort of process will start. Also, they don't immediately jump to punishment. They'll basically get in touch with you to say, hey, we think you're doing something, wrong under the legislation. Here's what you need to fix. And even if you don't apply with every single nuts and bolts letter of the law, as long as you're operating under the spirit, asking for permission, respecting opt-outs, and most importantly, sending email that's valuable and transparent, you're not going to find yourself falling afoul of these things. So, do it, make the effort, ask for that consent, respect it, and you'll probably be fine. So what does that collecting permission mean? So here's a simple form. You've all seen these. You've all either checked or not checked those boxes. So I agree to receive information from Adam and Agriculture Solutions in Canada on the measure. You may unsubscribe at any time. Please read our policy and terms and conditions. If somebody ticks this box, that's basically just saying, hey, yes, I would like to receive here's my permission. You can now send me email. I don't love this kind of very generic boilerplate text because it doesn't specify what type of email you're going to send, how often it's going to be sent. It leaves a lot ambiguous in terms of what actually giving you this consent means, but this is a technically correct way to collect that permission. Also note, the checkbox is unchecked by default. That has to be the case. You basically can't have it pre-checked because then somebody isn't taking an action to opt in. Thus, it's not kind of, honest, fully opted in consent. So use a checkbox, leave it unchecked, encourage the person to check, and then be descriptive with what actually opting in, implies, going back to that audience and subscription type of thing. Unsubscribe links. These are what exist in your in the footer of all the emails that you're going to receive. Unsubscribe, manage preferences. So this is the HubSpot email builder that we're looking at right now. You have to have an unsubscribe link. You just do. Most platforms aren't going to let you even send out an email unless you've got an unsubscribe link in it. But a lot of times they will give you the option to say unsubscribe or manage preferences. So unsubscribe is going to usually it's going to take somebody to a screen that just says, hey, confirm your email address, or, please confirm you'd like to unsubscribe. Yes. And then it's going to take them off all of your email lists. Manage preferences. That's the kind of page that's going to take you to what I described in my David's Key example of, hey, here's all the different types of email that you send. Are you sure you'd like to go? Now, also, Google has just started including started pushing companies to include one-click unsubscribe in their emails. So we're probably going to see a higher instance of unsubscribes kind of over the next 3 months. But giving people the option to update their preferences rather than just unsubscribing, it's always a good thing to do if your platform offers it, just because, who knows, you might catch a few folks who still want to receive some of your email. They were just getting too much. Creating and deleting subscriptions. So again, this is a HubSpot page, but I just wanted to show, so inside HubSpot, when somebody is subscribed, unsubscribed, or not specified, so this is just to show that these are the subscriptions I have set up in my email account. And this is just looking at a test contact. So hey, they're subscribed to event invitations. They're unsubscribed from marketing information. So that means if I send out any events because they told me they want to receive events, or they're something about their profile says, hey, I want to invite them to a specific event, they're eligible to receive the subscribed stuff. If I even try to send them something that falls under the marketing information bucket because they're unsubscribed from it, the platform isn't even going to let me send it because the person has told me I don't want to receive this type of email. So again, a lot of the stuff that I was talking about, hey, somebody has told you they want to receive this, but not this, blah, 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 blah. Your platforms generally handle that by tracking somebody's subscribed or unsubscribed status. And if somebody had just blanket unsubscribed, say by clicking unsubscribe from all email, it would just say unsubscribed in all of these buckets. Subscribed, unsubscribed, not specified. That's a little bit of HubSpot specific stuff that just kind of explains the previous slide that we were looking at. That one. Oh yeah. And then who shouldn't you email? Now, this is less of a compliance thing, more of just an email best practices thing. Unsubscribes. You aren't allowed to send to them. That simple. Sometimes people try to, somebody unsubscribes and then people try to opt them back in, kind of, because you're like, no, I really want this person to get that email. Don't do it. Like, if they've said they have unsubscribed, just respect that, let them go. If you were super curious or did think that it was super valuable, instead of sending a marketing email or changing their subscription preferences on their behalf, see about just actually sending them a one-to-one email. Like, reach out and be like, oh, hey, Reg, noticed you unsubscribed. I think that there's something that's really interesting that's coming down the pipe. Let me know if you'd be interested in staying on the list or something like that. But most of the time, just let them go. Once they've unsubscribed, they're off. Unengaged contacts. Now, this is just I always like to say, if you've sent 10 emails and they haven't opened it, do you think email 11 is going to be any different? So have some sort of cutoff where you're like, okay, if it's been past a certain time since somebody has received an email, or if, I've sent a ton of email and they haven't interacted with my emails in any way, let them go. Just, kind of sunset them. Say, okay, you're not going to be on my daily email marketing newsletter for two reasons. One, again, lower open rates don't look good to email marketing platforms. So anything you can do to keep your open rate a little bit higher, kind of above 30, 35%, is good. The other thing is that if somebody's unengaged, you should probably want to talk to them a little bit differently than the people who are your regularly engaged subscribers. So a lot of times I tell people, hey, we've got these 5,000 people that they're still eligible to receive email, but they haven't interacted with it in a really long time. Let's try a reactivation campaign. Let's just collect all those folks and then say, hey, rather than the usual, here's our newsletter, like, send an offer to reactivate them, or find the content that performed best with everybody else in your database over the last year and a half, and then just pull that content out and then send it out to them with some sort of framed in a way to say, hey, it's been a while, we've got something we think you'd really enjoy, just to try to reactivate those unengaged contacts. But in your day-to-day emails, if somebody's gone 10 emails or a year or 18 months and haven't interacted with your emails in any way, consider starting to let them go. And then imported lists. This goes back to that compliance side of things of, if you just bought a list or rented a list or scraped a list by using tools like Apollo.io and looking on LinkedIn for people's email addresses, you don't have permission to send marketing emails to those folks. Now, again, if you're in the States, fine, you're good under CAN spam, but under CASL, you don't actually have permission to reach out to those people in most circumstances. So A, you're going to put yourself at risk for those spam flags and violation reports. B, it's just going to perform real bad. Like cold bulk marketing outreach is rarely worth the effort that you're putting into it in the first place. Like it's just extremely low conversion. So focusing more on getting people at conferences to opt in, or you know, promoting some of your content with paid social to try to encourage people to sign up to your email marketing lists is generally a better use of your time and resources than hoovering up giant lists of people and then just blasting out email, hoping for the best. Okay, so that runs us through like a lot of the different fundamentals of email that I wanted to touch on. There is this bonus content, which is a video that's included in the link, which is basically me walking through how I've got my subscription set up, how I set it up on my forms, how to build a simple email. It's about 7.5 minutes long. It's all set up in HubSpot, but it kind of ties together in a way, in a real tangible way, a lot of the stuff that I talked about today. So I think Shaylin is going to send out maybe the link to that specifically, and she's definitely going to send out the deck, which has the link baked in. So if you're curious about seeing some of this in a little bit more of a tactical way, definitely check out that bonus content. And yeah, last but not least, I'm available on LinkedIn. Feel free to jot the email down and shoot me any questions that you have. Obviously, anything that we don't get to in today's Q&A. And then just a reminder that if you are either using HubSpot or have been considering HubSpot, or you're just looking for a email marketing platform and you're wondering whether HubSpot would be an option for you, HubSpot is what I do day in, day out, and I would absolutely love the opportunity to talk your ear off a little bit more about it. So that is me for the moment.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cody, for that very insightful presentation. I feel like I definitely have been guilty of just sending out emails to people in the past. So good to know where those legislations sort of lie. Now we have a little bit of time left to do a few quick Q&As. So for everybody tuning in, just beside the chat, there's a Q&A tab where you can put your question. If you can't think of a question, you can vote for the other ones. And if you're shy, it can also be anonymous. So let's start this conversation a little bit. There is a question about audiences. So is there a rule of thumb to how many audiences you should have?
So this is entirely, shooting from the hip, gut feeling type of scenario. But I find if you've got more than 6, you're probably spreading yourself too thin. Now, again, that obviously comes with the caveat that if you've got a dedicated email marketing team of 5 different people and a bunch of different content writers, you're probably okay. But if it's just a 1 or 2 person team, you're probably underserving your audiences by having them spread out, kind of beyond that 5 or 6 realm. So yeah, that would be my, rule of thumb.
Okay, wonderful. And definitely helpful. I could see it being different too if you're like a massive company versus like a smaller startup. Yeah.
And sometimes, like I say, you do, and because agriculture, I've worked with a lot of ag organizations, and sometimes they'll slice their audiences thinner than that, only because the products support it. So like if you say you do pesticide for soybeans, canola, corn, wheat, rye, oats, blah, 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 you've got 15 different types of crops. Then you probably need 15 different audiences to be like, yeah, I'm only going to send stuff that applies to canola to people who have canola. But that's a very operational reason because their products are so specific to specific data points. So that's a case for having more audiences in that really granular product space.
Right. Okay. This one's a little bit more HubSpot related. How can we keep our costs low as HubSpot becomes expensive as our customers grow? So I guess that's like an audience question, right? Like, do you pay per subscriber kind of thing?
Yeah. So in HubSpot, you do, and great question, Farhan, and I'm super intrigued as to, because that's very specific and I like it. The short answer is HubSpot's billing model functions on, about 2 years ago, they pivoted to something called marketing contacts versus non-marketing contacts. So a lot of times an email marketing platform will just say, hey, how many people do you want to have in your database? You need 2,000? Cool. You're going to pay for 2,000 people. HubSpot, because it's also a CRM, so like a lot of times you're going to have like maybe the accounts payable person at a company, because one of your sales team members kind of needs to know that person's email address to ask billing questions or address billing issues. But you as a marketing team, you're like, I'm probably not going to send the monthly newsletter to ap@companyabc.com. So now you are in this weird realm of like, wow, then I don't want to use HubSpot because now I have to pay for that person. So they introduced this thing called non-marketing contacts, where you basically say, hey, here's the number of marketing people that I think I'm going to have in my database, 5,000 out of my 50,000. And then HubSpot says, okay, great. You only have to pay for those people, but you also now can only send marketing email to those people. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do to manage and adjust the number of marketing versus non-marketing subscribers that you have in HubSpot. So right. Yeah, Farhan, it's basically playing around with that marketing, non-marketing contact, sunsetting some of those unengaged contacts, making sure that those people who aren't actually going to be receiving marketing stuff aren't getting flagged as marketing contacts. That's the high level about how you would kind of go about keeping the subscription cost low, even though the database was growing.
I thought of like my own question, so it's not on the list. But like you said, sort of cleaning through the subscriber list and removing the unengaged subscribers. How often would you do something like that? Is that sort of like what you look at quarterly, or?
Yeah, like once every 6 months is usually enough. Again, that depends on how often you're pulling people in. Like if you're getting 200 subscribers a day, then you're gonna find that list is gonna grow and probably need manicuring. If you're getting one a week, yeah, you can probably leave that once a year. But the best move is to just not even have that be something that you have to look at. Like most marketing automation platforms and email platforms have some kind of workflow management setup nowadays. And it's best to just say, like, set up a rule that say, hey, if the last email open date is more than 365 days ago, stick a tag on that person that says idle or unengaged. Or if it's been more than 365 days, automatically turn that person to a non-marketing contact if you're using HubSpot. So just have those rules set up. Right. It's more on the front end. You have to think through and you have to make some decisions, and you're going to be forced to make some Sophie's choices about who needs to stay on that list and who doesn't. But that really does pay dividends on the back end. And frankly, if anybody's curious, we are doing, I run the HubSpot Western Canada user group. And the session that we're doing on like March 6th is all about sunsetting marketing contacts. So I'll probably be sending that over to Tech Manitoba to throw into the newsletter. So keep an eye on that coming down the pipe.
Okay, awesome. What is considered a good open rate for your newsletters? I know you sort of hinted at it. It was like 30 to 35.
Yeah, I would say that 30 that's the standard, 30 through 30, 33 ish. If you're hovering around that, know that you're doing at about benchmark. A little bit higher than that is always great. So if you're landing in the 40s or the 50s, then hats off to you.
Okay, amazing. And this next one, how would you differentiate first-time email capture for a pre-product market fit company versus an established product market fit looking to gain more emails? The difference being resources.
Okay. Yes. So that is an in-depth question, and that is fantastic. Okay. First-time email capture pre-product. Okay. So what?
I'm thinking more like startup versus like a very established company, kind of. Yeah.
Totally. And where I usually come is the fewer resources you have, the more direct you should be with adding value. So a lot of times I encourage folks, if they have so this is an email, but it's going to come back to email, I promise, is if you have a contact form and all that contact form does is send somebody an email, internally send somebody an email, And then that person is basically going to follow up and say, hey, would you like to schedule a call? And then so we can talk about answering your questions. It's like, well, then why not just eliminate that form altogether and use something like Calendly to just allow people to book that call directly? It takes 2 steps out of the process and empowers the user. So if you're looking at something like a startup, being more like adding value much more immediately than, so don't say, you probably don't have the time to make guides, or you probably don't have the time to make to record really long video presentations or whatever. So like just make the make the demo immediately accessible, or have a demo instance set up that allows me to people to pop in and say, hey, I can just play around directly with the product. Or again, like allow people, open up that book a meeting widget and just say, hey, allow me to book in, and just allow them to ask their questions to you directly, or get access to the experts that they probably want to talk to anyway. Or frankly, just offer a discount. Again, nothing like a promo code to say, hey, okay, if you want to, hey, all we've got right now is a product and a sign up form. Well, then cool, get $2 off your month, lifetime discount off your monthly subscription fee if you give us your email and stay subscribed, or something like that. Again, be really immediate about the value, as opposed to using the resources that a larger company would have to develop kind of like much deeper, knowledge share stuff. So again, that's just freewheeling spitball stuff. So take that with the grain of salt. But yeah, I totally pick up what you're putting down in terms of how much time you spend on email and capturing when you're just starting out and don't have a ton that maybe you can offer.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all your insights. I know we're a little bit past 1 o'clock. I can see a couple of people dropping off, as I'm sure they have to go back to work. But thank you, Cody, for joining us today and sharing all of your expertise with us. I hope everybody had some useful takeaways from that, and or maybe rethinking the way they're sending out their email marketing. And that concludes the program for today. So you're now going to go back to the floor plan, the tables you were originally at. It will remain open for networking for the next half hour. So feel free to stick around if you want to pop over and say hi to Cody or ask questions one-on-one. I know he's going to stay for a little bit longer too. And we'll see everyone there.